Universal Studios Orlando. My true home. Nothing compares to seeing the IOA lighthouse of Universal Globe on the way into one of the two world-class theme parks. Universal has been home to some of my favorite life moments, from my dramatic overreactions to my first ride on Ripsaw Falls, to my first run with the Raptors on VelociCoaster and my near-death experience on Dr. Doom's Fearfalls. Coupled with my off-ride stories from events like Halloween Horror Nights, I have quite the plethora of stories from Universal. This really is my happy place. And currently, there are 30 attractions on my list here for you to enjoy. Let's get the fine print out the way. I redacted the horror makeup show and animal actors, as they're not really attractions as much as just shows. However, I've included Poseidon's Fury as a walkthrough attraction, and the Bourne Stuntacular for its amazing effects and experience as an immersive attraction. With technicalities out of the way, let's crack on with the ratings for Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure attractions, and see which rides make the podium. Let me know if you agree with my picks, or if I've done your favourite ride a disservice. Unless your favourite ride is Fast and Furious Supercharged. Coming in at number 30, at the bottom of my list, is the Carousel. The Carousel is a carousel with various Seuss characters and creatures in place of the traditional horses. It's literally just a carousel. Moving on. Number 29 is the High in the Sky Seuss Trolley train ride. And this attraction takes you over the confined area of Seuss Landing, albeit slowly, making queues unreasonably long at times. The attraction is alright for a quick sit down or to entertain the young children, but that's about it. You can, however, get pretty decent views of the Hulk coaster and the VelociCoaster while going around, and that makes it just a little bit worth it. In 28th, we have One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. A typical flying carpet style ride themed around the Seuss book, on which you can maneuver your fish up and down to avoid getting wetted by water shooters. The interactivity and child friendliness make this a great attraction for families, but as an adult who doesn't like getting soaked, I'll usually give this one a pass unless it's a day I've designated to do all the wet rides. 27. Kang and Kodos' Twirl and Hurl. It's the same style of ride as One Fish, but you move your UFO to blast Springfield residents. The characters' various one-liners and the attraction's theming make this ride quite fun despite being quite basic. Number 26, the Hogwarts Express. Now, the Hogwarts Express may simply be a train with longer queues than any train in the London Underground, but this one offers a way from the back of IOA to the back of Studios or vice versa, providing you with a nice sit-down break to rest your legs and including some nice visuals out the window, so it's a pretty neat experience if the queues are short. Number 25, we have Fast and Furious Supercharged. There are so many things to say about this ride. I may have to do a whole video on it, but I'll stick to the brief description for now. Somehow, the newest ride in the studio side, based on one of the more loved franchises and movies with its 10th installment in cinemas soon, is the most hated ride in the entirety of Universal Studios Orlando. The ride takes place in a party bus big enough to bring all your family in, and which is essentially a tram from the Universal Hollywood Studio Tram Tour, which is pretty much the opposite of Fast, being a giant 7-mile-an-hour bouncy bus. And having to look around all the people on your row either side to view the screens will leave some people furious. But worse than the style of ride vehicle is the attraction's screens. To put it simply, the graphics make it feel like you're watching an older Grand Theft Auto mod starring the cast of Fast and Furious. Considering the similar but older Kang ride has better screens, and Bourne features ultra-realistic graphics, Supercharged screens are awful by comparison. So you're probably thinking, oh, if you have so many genuinely bad things to say about Supercharged, how is it higher than 5 other rides? Well, this ride has a redeeming quality that 99.9% of people do not know about. This attraction has a secret tour that you can access for free. Ask a member of staff for the Garage Tour, which will allow you to get access to restricted areas. You can get up close to the cars used in the movies, and it will show you hidden Easter eggs from the ride's predecessors, Disaster and the Beetlejuice Graveyard Review. Finishing off with access to the ride without queuing at all, which makes the whole experience quite a bit better, because really, you shouldn't be queuing for this ride. The garage tour is the ride's saving factor, and that's why I've rated it 25th out of 30 instead of lower. Number 24, The Cat in the Hat. Located in Seuss Landing, this ride is a slow, tracked, indoor, dark ride, albeit not very dark, that takes riders through the story of the Cat in the Hat, featuring mild spinning. Now even more mild after an extremely stupid accident occurred. Nonetheless, the ride and its queue have good air conditioning, that's a win, and it can please young children and nostalgic adults, so it's always worth a little pop in if it's 5 minutes. Number 23, possibly one of my more controversial picks, E.T. Adventure. This is the park's oldest ride, remaining from opening day. E.T. Adventure looks pretty old too. Definitely looks like a time capsule straight from 1985, but will likely stay for a long time. This ride is another indoor dark ride featuring the most unintentionally creepy alien animatronics that, given the right lighting and sound, could easily be rethemed for Halloween Horror Nights as E.T. Abduction, in which he abducts you and takes you to his planet of flesh-eating aliens. It totally would work, though I imagine Spielberg would hate to see that happen to his beloved E.T. That said, there's a very strong rumour about Steven Spielberg's involvement with this ride. Apparently, if this ride is removed, Spielberg will revoke Universal's usage of other Spielberg-directed IPs, such as Jurassic Park. I like to refer to this as the Spielberg Clause. So basically, we're stuck with this dated attraction as long as Spielberg is around. But hey, there's good air conditioning again, and there's a certain charm to the ride if you can look past the creepiness of the aliens. 22. Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem. What we have here is what was formerly a 3D simulator in which you'd run through what looked like the beta test of the Minion mobile game, but with a story attached. The ride was fine, and it was family friendly. But then Universal made the inexplicable choice to remove the 3D effect, rendering this a 2D simulator en masse, which loses most of the ride's immersion. Not to mention this thing is a little rough. Also inexplicable is the massive queue times this ride accrues. Now, I wouldn't wait any more than 10 minutes here, maybe 15. I waited 25 minutes on my most recent ride of this, and felt it wasn't the best use of my time. However, this ride is good if you have younger kids with you, and for that reason, it serves as a distraction for families with children, that the family without children can go to other, better rides with short queues. Shame they kinda did this ride a disservice by removing the 3D. 21. Skull Island, Reign of Kong. If you know what this ride is, you're probably surprised I ranked this 4 higher than Supercharged and not just 1 higher. But there's actually a lot to love about this ride, and here's what's what. 1. Kong's facade is impressive, like extremely impressive. The temple looks amazing. They've essentially created an entire land for Skull Island, but the exterior of this temple is just... it blows you away. Like, that's what gets you into going to the rides. You see the temple and you think, wow, that is amazing. So they've really put in the effort there. 2. The theming is far stronger here, as the ride is set after the Peter Jackson-directed King Kong of 2005, which stars Jack Black. All the details inside are really fun and well thought out. 3. This attraction also has a secret tour, the Temple Tour, that is very informative and gets you to the front of the queue too. Though the best time to take this tour is when the ride is down, so the temple is completely empty. And finally, point 4, this ride concludes with a massive King Kong animatronic that serves as the highlight of the ride, making the tram-style ride all worth it. It's funny how this ride is older than Supercharged, but the screens are far better. Anyway, there is a fair amount to like about Kong outside of the ride style, so that's why it's up here and not Supercharged. Number 20, Flight of the Hippogriff. Originally the Flying Unicorn, the ride underwent retheming when Harry Potter came to Universal in the early 2010s. But not much changed. It's a small roller coaster designed for younger visitors, so that there's at least one coaster they can do, especially now that Woody Woodpecker's Nuthouse Coaster is closed at Universal Studios. Though I've noticed that since the opening of Hagrid's, this ride has started getting larger queues than when it made the Dragon Challenge. It's an alright coaster, but not worth more than 15 minutes queuing for. Number 19. Storm Force Accelatron. Pretty much everyone knows what the Teacups ride is, where guests sit in a teacup and the cup spins, either automatically or manually. Well, Storm here is pretty much teacups on steroids. Guests sit in a teacup-shaped thing and spin the giant metal plate in the middle to increase your spinning speed. This doubles as both an increase to the fun factor and as a decent arm workout. Either way, this ride is not to be underestimated, as the highest speeds can get quite intense, and with queues commonly at 5 minutes, it's worth doing, but preferably on an empty stomach. Number 18. Popeye and Bluto's Bilge-wrapped Barge. Have you ever seen the sign, "You may get wet" on a wet ride, and then come off it as dry as you were going in? Yeah, no. This is the exact opposite of that. This is more of a "you will get wet" moment. You will come off of this river rapid style ride completely soaked head to toe, so wear quick drying clothes and shoes, nothing expensive. Last time I went on, someone was wearing jeans and nice trainers. Bad move. Don't be one of those poncho people though, take the water head on the way the ride's meant to be experienced, come on. Now while the Popeye theme may be starting to get outdated, I think it actually works quite well as a retro theme. Better than Woody Woodpecker over at Studios and all the various things in the Kids Zone were. So I think it works quite well. Additionally, it's quite fun when on rafts with other families, to laugh with and at each other whenever someone takes the full brunt of a water attack. So yeah, it's a fun ride, but because of how wet you get, that actually deters me a bit. The other water rides are less extreme, as you can be dried within an hour or so, whereas this one will take many hours on a sunny day to dry off from. Number 17. Poseidon's Fury. Now Poseidon's Fury is far from perfect. People love it, or people hate it. It peaked long ago. Yet, it's still pretty fun. It's sort of a live-action show that you walk through, with different rooms containing different show elements. Frankly, it's the show elements such as projections on water that are looking a little dated. Projecting an image on falling water is not the best idea. It's a little blurry, and it just isn't great. However, the set design and the story, they still hold up, and the cast member who acts as your group's guide can make or break your experience though, so you have to really appreciate when you get a good one, all the effort they put into their role. This attraction provides a nice change of pace from the rest of the park, and can be a good show given the right acting cast member, and providing all the effects work, especially the water tunnel. If you haven't been on it, I won't spoil the water tunnel, but it's like mind-blowing the first time you go on this. It's insane. So it's definitely worth checking out if you want to take a quick 20-minute break during the day. Number 16. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. We're rounding up to the top of my bottom half here. When opening in the 2010s, this ride was groundbreaking. The ride system is a bench of 4 seats with shoulder restraints, and the bench is attached to a giant robotic arm, allowing the bench to turn in any direction on any axis. And the arms themselves move along a track between a combination of screens that move with the vehicle and real sets, such as a giant Hungarian horntail dragon and a whomping willow. Now, the ride perhaps looks a little worse for wear and less magical more than a decade on, but it's still a pretty good ride. Number 15. The Jurassic Park River Adventure. This is an absolute classic that's undeniable. JP has been around since the opening of Islands of Adventure in 1999, and features a pretty simple boat ride through dinosaur enclosures, until you go off course into the Raptor containment unit, where things get exciting. Capped off with a big drop and a splash to match, this ride is very fun, but definitely looks dated, especially compared to the Velociraptor animatronic in the queue for the VelociCoaster. Regardless, River Adventure is still a classic ride, even if it's looking a bit worn down. Number 14, probably the most controversial choice on my list, Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. as a Brit, I had no idea who Jimmy Fallon was or what The Tonight Show was either, yet I found this ride so fun when I first rode it. The waiting area for the ride is quite fun, but then the ride itself, essentially something between the original 3D incarnation of Despicable Me, Minion, Mayhem, and then the Simpsons Ride, but with nice smooth effects, is honestly really enjoyable. This ride gets a lot of criticism for being another screen-based ride, but it does its job better than Despicable Me does, and the screen is certainly better itself than the screen found on the Simpsons Ride. Jimmy Fallon's creation is simply hilarious. And be sure to ask for the studio tour for access to the restricted center of Universal Studios Orlando Resort, and possibly a private meeting with #Panda, and you may even get to look at the operating room too. Number 13. The Bourne Stuntacular. Upon hearing news of the closure of Terminator 2 3D, I was incredibly disappointed, more so than possibly when Dragon Challenge died, because I love Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And Terminator 2 is one of his best, if not the best. And seeing this stunt show featuring Arnie was always fun. I'd easily watch it multiple times on any holiday to Orlando. And it was both a nice sit-down break and a great show. Although the Arnie stunt doubles were looking a bit unfit and rather un-Arnie-like by the last year of the show running. Coming back to Universal 5 years later in 2022, I walked into the Bourne Stuntacular with low expectations and a bit of T2 bias in all honesty, but I was pleasantly surprised with the quality show Bourne supplied us with. Sure, the story wasn't as badass as Terminator, but everything else exceeded its predecessor with flying colours. The Bourne Stuntacular amazes audience with its seamless use of set pieces and stage floor trapdoors, along with what can safely be assumed is the highest quality screen Universal have employed, combining visuals with reality to give you a true 4D feel without the need for moving seats and 3D glasses. Not to mention the flawless stunts performed by the talented cast. Although this attraction doesn't have any particular redo factor, it's amazing to watch the first time and definitely worth watching if you ever visit the park. Number 12. Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls. A log flume comedy ride, Ripsaw Falls follows Canadian Mountie Dudley Do-Right and his horse called Horse as they attempt to save the damsel in distress from Snidely Whiplash. This log flume ride has multiple drops, the biggest being the world's first to ever go beneath water level. Now what makes this ride so fun is the cartoonish elements found throughout, and because this ride has a bit more to it with its multiple drops, I find this more enjoyable than Jurassic Park River Adventure. You're likely to get more wet on this ride than on JP, but not as wet as on Popeye's. But I think what I love most about this ride is just it's good old-fashioned cartoon comedy. Like, it kind of takes you out of everything else and just puts you into this like cartoon show, and it's just really fun. My only complaint is the log flume itself, especially if you're sitting at the front. If you've got long legs like me and you're lanky like that, it's very hard to get seated in there. And I have actually seen people get stuck in the logs as well. So that's pretty much my only complaint. Also, don't drink the water, trust me on that. Number 11. Dr. Doom's Fearfall. Now perhaps it's surprising that a simple drop tower ride almost made top 10 on my list, but it is an incredibly well themed drop tower. You enter a Latverian embassy where the evil Dr. Doom, sworn enemy of Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four, has set up an experiment you'll take part in to aid him. You'll be strapped into your seat and launched 185 feet into the air as your fear is extracted from you and used as fuel to help Doom defeat his enemies. So obviously theming is strong. The ride launches you upwards, then drops you down, then repeat 3 more times, each repetition lower and less intense than the previous. You can usually rely on this ride's queue being very short, and the single rider queue is often empty. In fact, I've never waited in the single rider queue, I've just walked straight through. I initially had this one in 16th, below Forbidden Journey, but my most recent rides on this attraction were really smooth and rather pleasant too, so I bumped it up some spots. The view is amazing, by the way, especially at night. Number 10. The Simpsons Ride. The Simpsons Ride is a classic, even if you're still a little upset about Back to the Future being replaced by The Simpsons. The simulator attraction takes you to Krusty Land, where Sideshow Bob is trying to kill the Simpson family and the riders. Everything about this attraction, from the queue to the pre-show and the ride itself, is absolutely hilarious. I've been on this ride enough that I know most of the dialogue, but it still makes me laugh each time. It's definitely worth a ride. Even if the screen's looking a bit, older, and the ride's, like, in general it's not as well maintained as it used to be. But it's so much fun, trust me. Number 9, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. When it comes to screen-based rides, this style is king. Sitting in a 4x3 car, riders will be whizzed between 3D screens as they follow Spider-Man's attempt to thwart the sinister syndicate. Trust me, it's more impressive than it sounds, but with a great blend of 3D screens, real set pieces, and special effects like water and fire, this 1999 dark ride is cutting edge for its time and still holds up well. I'll always remember it's the first ride I ever went on at Universal when I visited for my 5th birthday in 2008. It's such a good ride, honestly. Like, it's a must-do for anyone visiting Islands of Adventure. Number 8, Men in Black Alien Attack. Let's be honest, we're here for the guns. This shooter dark ride based on the Men in Black franchise may feel old, but it's still a fun time as you take out your laser blaster and shoot alien scum in attempts to score high and become an agent. There are plenty of secrets to scoring high, including pressing the red button at the right time and shooting Frank the Pug Dog from the second film for more points. I've heard the secret tour here, the Immigration Tour, is supposed to be really good too, though I've yet to experience it. In conclusion, Men in Black Alien Attack is a classic in every sense of the word, and definitely deserves a ride, especially if you're with other people. Number 7 is an attraction that I think people don't appreciate enough. Sure, maybe there's some missed opportunities here, but what we have is a really fun roller coaster. I'm talking about the Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit. The name of this ride may not make much sense, considering this ride is not based in Hollywood, where there is a Universal Studios. The Rip Ride Rockit promises a good time jamming in music on your ride. While the track itself is a little rough and bumpy after all these years, as is the ride's history, the layout is quite exciting, having some memorable maneuvers such as the world's first non-inverting loop, a vertical chain lift, and a treble clef movement through a building. However, what makes this ride so neat is that it gives you the perfect reason to keep re-riding it. You can pick your music. With 30 bass songs to choose from across 5 categories, and a plethora of secret songs, it's worth coming back to try the ride of different songs. Rock, country, hip-hop, whatever your style, there's something for everyone. I even accidentally stumbled into an instrumental jazz piece by accident one time by selecting Secret Song 117, which was surprisingly nice. My personal recommendation is Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, which is Secret Song 113. There are so many reasons to ride this coaster, making it easily one of the most re-rideable attractions and the most intense in the studio side. Number 6, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts. Next level. That's how to describe this ride. This combines a roller coaster track with 3D screens, essentially creating a hybrid of Spider-Man and Transformers with the Mummy. The best feature of the ride is easily the tilting track at the start that tilts downwards and eventually releases the car. However, because the best feature of the ride occurs at the start, the rest feels a little bit lackluster in comparison. Even the launch at the end feels slow compared to other things in the park. However, this is primarily a 4D ride, so can't really complain too much about the track. The combination of track, rotating cars, and screens is very nice. Into the top 5 now. In number 5, the Incredible Hulk Coaster. The first thing you'll see when you enter Islands of Adventure, the Incredible Hulk Coaster boasts a 67-mile-an-hour top speed with 7 inversions. A 0G roll, a Cobra roll, which counts as 2 inversions for those unaware, a vertical loop, a left corkscrew, another vertical loop, and a final left corkscrew, making it the most inverting ride across both parks. The ride is themed on General Thunderbolt's experiments to turn guests into Hulks for a brief period. Not only is this one of the best roller coasters born in the 90s, but it's also one of the best rides in the park. It's a must-do for coaster lovers. There's nothing more exciting than the build-up in the launch tube before you suddenly fly out straight into the 0G roll, especially at night when you can't see the 0G roll. Hulk out! Number 4 is the final of my very controversial picks. Transformers The Ride 3D. This ride was very much criticized for being another screen-based ride. But you should cut it some slack because it originated in Hollywood where they didn't have the Amazing Spider-Man ride. This was their Spider-Man. So, and then we took it to Orlando because it was so good. But this ride is actually the best screen ride in the parks, in my opinion. Using the same ride system as Spider-Man, but with nicer, newer technology from being two decades later, and utilizing multiple floors of screens, this ride is incredibly immersive and once again blends screens with physical set pieces well, along with using the cool theming of the very enjoyable Transformers trilogy. Yes, I said trilogy. The giant real Megatron at the end is pretty cool, as is the on-screen Optimus Prime, which looks incredibly realistic. This ride is a clone of the one in Hollywood, like I mentioned, which I remember extremely well. We went around the time the ride opened, and we had the VIP ticket, so I went on this about 6 times in our day trip, and it was just the most awesome thing ever. But now I'm older, and I've been on it enough times to be able to quote most scenes from memory. I actually spend a good amount of time just looking around at the ride's mechanics and how it seamlessly transitions the cars up and down floors without being noticeable, and between screens with ease. It's all just so amazingly executed, making this my number 2 ride on the studio side. Number 3. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. This family-friendly coaster doesn't hold back on thrills, featuring 7 launches, backwards track, a drop track, and very realistic Hagrid animatronic. This ride delivers pretty much everything you could want except inversions. Riders will sit in either a sidecar or on a motorbike as you zip round tight turns into the Forbidden Forest. It may not be the tallest or fastest thing here, but it's certainly thrilling. There's really not much to say about this ride because it speaks for itself. Especially the 3-hour queues, they speak for themselves. Coming into the top 2, we've probably deduced what the 2 options were. No, it's not Pteranodon Flyers, I left that out because I do not have a small child to go on it with. But the question is, which ride won? We're dealing with Island's Best and Studio's Best. In number 2, Revenge of the Mummy. Revenge of the Mummy is easily one of the best indoor coasters ever created. Years and years and years of Best Indoor Coaster Awards prove it. And after serving millions and millions of guests, it's clear that this is one of the most beloved attractions in the park, if not probably in the world. It's so well loved. This Psycho Coaster takes you through the dark, where you come face to face with Imhotep, Mummy Warriors, and Scarab Beetles as the track twists, turns, backtracks, and launches. Built with the star power of Brendan Fraser's The Mummy franchise, this ride remains a timeless classic for all to enjoy and has secured the number 1 spot on my list for the studio side, beaten only by the apex predator of Islands of Adventure. And number 1, Jurassic World VelociCoaster. Nothing at Universal compares to the thrill of the hunt. Launching from 0 to 50 miles an hour and receiving a second boost of 40 to 70 miles an hour, the VelociCoaster is the park's fastest ride, easily identifiable by its massive 150-foot top hat and its heartline roll over the park's lagoon, in which riders are ejected from their seats for a nice pop of airtime. The VelociCoaster is thrilling right from the first launch with a total of 12 seconds of airtime throughout, and a nice theming throughout too. Jurassic World VelociCoaster is my number 1 pick for the park, and if there's any ride that you want to do when you visit Universal, make this your priority. Well, there you have it. My rankings of the 30 attractions at Universal Studios Orlando. If you're planning a trip to Universal Studios Orlando soon, I hope that my rankings may help you influence which rides you do or don't go on. My personal advice is to buy a longer ticket and just go in the mornings, do a certain amount of rides when the queues are short, leave, come back in the evening for when it's short again, and then come back another day. Don't waste time queuing 3 hours for Hagrid or 2 hours for VelociCoaster. Use the single rider queues if you don't mind being split up, because single rider queues save so much time. I've gotten through 100 minutes of Rip Ride Rocket Coaster in 15 using the single rider queue. It's definitely worth it. If you want any planning tips on how best to get around the park, let me know in the comments. If you agree, disagree, have anything to say about my rankings, well, it's my opinion. But feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to discuss all of this. And again, if you're lucky enough to get to go to Universal again soon, I hope I've managed to help you avoid Fast and Furious Supercharged. Honestly. And of course, these rankings will be updated in 2025 when Epic Universe will open, featuring the Universal Classic monsters in the Dark Universe land, How to Train Your Dragon, and of course, the headliner, Super Nintendo World, featuring a Mario Kart ride, a Yoshi Dark ride, and a Donkey Kong minecart roller coaster that promises to jump track. So that's going to be pretty cool. But until then, these are the rankings I'm going with. And it won't just be that I'll be incorporating Epic Universe on the next video, but it will be that my opinions might have changed. I might have a really good experience with an older ride that I put lower down, or a bad experience with a new ride that I then move down, or maybe a ride gets renovated or something. And of course, there's the new Minions ride coming soon. It's a walkthrough attraction called, I think it's VilaineCon themed. So, you know, that's pretty cool. We'll see what's going on there. But until next time, stay tuned, there will be more theme park videos coming soon. I'm promising a video ranking the top 20 roller coasters I've ever been on. And I'm promising a video of the 10 roller coasters I want to do in my life before I die. They're my bucket list coasters. And so, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. Now, thank you for watching. And here's some stupid bloopers because I couldn't record this well. Thanks for watching again. Bye.